by Lena Waithe and produced by Melina, and I'm not sure of her last name, so I'm gonna put that in later. Today we got guests, y'all. So I'm going to let everybody introduce themselves.
All right, so I'll go. So my name is Art. I am the husband of this beautiful young lady to the right of me, and we have two daughters, Dominique and Kirsten. I am into customer service, into leadership and customer service, also a leader in my local church.
So, that's my boo thing.
Come on, boo.
But my name is Keisha again, and we actually have two businesses, budding businesses. The first is a catering business, which is AK Catering. We're on Facebook. We haven't done our website yet, but that is my goal to do that over Christmas break. But you know, for those of you who are always asked to bring the drink and the napkins, call me. I'll make you look good. And then J Pearl Consulting, which is a consulting firm that helps small agencies open up their business in the IDD population.
Nice. Well, again, I'm Brittany. I can be followed on different social media platforms at Be Right Breeze. I'm just more of a fun social media personality. I model, and I work as a pharmacy services representative. So.
And she created the Melanin Shuffle.
I did.
Y'all gonna get a little sample of that later. Don't worry, because I'm trying to learn how to do it, but I'm not gonna do it on this video.
I'm Teron. I am an educator. I'm also an actor and spoken word artist. And in 2020, be on the lookout for some things for me.
Big things, y'all. So this table is like mad important, just so y'all know, cause like I know people sometimes. I know I try to tell y'all that sometimes, but like Chicago people, I really know like for real. Okay, so let's just start off basic on how everybody felt about the movie. I do have a couple of questions, but I just want to kind of be more like a conversation than like an interview, cause I don't interview. I'm not Oprah or Barbara Walters. So I like to have conversations about things, and I really like the fact that we have gentlemen here this time, because a lot of times I have just women on this show, so I only get a female's point of view most of the time. And this movie, being that it was about a woman and a man, I thought it would be great to have people. So shout out for Keisha for even offering up to have her husband come, and thank you so much for coming. And y'all know Teron, he been here before. He did actually see the stuff before we got here this time. So that's a plus. I love you though. Just anybody want to start? How did you feel overall with the movie?
I can be honest with you. When that movie ended, I really didn't know how to feel at first. And I would have to say that was the very first movie that ever grabbed my emotions in the way that it did. I've never seen a movie that did something to me, to whereas Keisha and I were driving home in silence. Like, it messed me up. It really did.
Okay.
So I love the movie. I wasn't quite sure what to expect. Given the picture that everybody saw, it was like a Bonnie and Clyde feel. Mm-hmm. And so I was thinking in my mind, like, I know we don't want to go see a whole black people robbing and killing everybody. Like, I just don't want to see that. So when it started and it went on, I was just like, this is a great movie. Like, you go through so many emotions.
It takes you through
it takes you through so many
emotions.
And how it started off in that awkward date. Like, did we even really like each other? To go to where they ended was just like, I really liked it.
I'm expressing the same sentiment so far. I really enjoyed it. When I first saw the trailer, I was already in it. Mm-hmm. I said, I can't wait for this movie to come out. These two chocolate leads. I'm here. Yes. I'm here for all of it. But I have learned with movies, don't come in with too many expectations.
That's right.
But any expectations I had, it took it there and put it to the next level. There were things I didn't appreciate that were in the movie, but overall, I love that movie. I love it.
So I like that she mentioned that from the moment she saw the trailer that she was excited to see the movie. I wasn't. I'm not real big on movies that deal with racism. Those movies are really hard for me. So I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can go see this one. But something in me wanted to see it because I felt like racism wasn't really the main focus. There was an underlining love story.
Right.
Yes, racism was what got them in the situation, but it really wasn't the driving focus of the movie.
Right.
And I kind of felt that, so I was like, all right, I'm gonna go see the movie, and I did love the movie. There were some things that me as a director and actor that I would have done differently myself. But that's the good thing about having differences in the industry is that you want the movie to end this way or go that way. I wanted to go this way and end that way. You wanted to go that direction. I wanted to go in that direction, and that's what makes art so beautiful.
The first thing is I'm a Lena Waithe follower, so I'm like almost anything she does, I'm in. I be excited when she on a commercial, like the voiceover, I got you. Like, so like I'm all whatever she does. So when I knew it was coming out, I was just like, I'm gonna watch it anyway. Then I saw like some of the trailers, and I was like, oh man, I don't really want to watch this Bonnie and Clyde movie. We've seen it already. I don't want to do it. But I was like, I'm going to go anyway because I'm still like, Issa Rae is also one of my best friends in my head, so I like, I'm root for everybody black. I was like, I'm still going to go and give my money. I'm giving money to Tyler Perry for some movies I felt like he owed me some money back on, so I felt like I could give her my money too. And again, because like you said, it was Chocolate Leads, and I was just like, it just seemed like everybody black was in there. And then I started watching some of the interviews and hearing her Lena talk about how she was given all of these rights that like white people were allowed to have final say on it. They didn't even do their screening with white people in the screening, and it was just kind of like she wanted this to be more of a black gaze. So I was like, I respect that, and the fact that a woman was able to get that opportunity, I was like, I'm in anyway. So I watched it all for that, and I loved it. A love story get me all the time, and I definitely did. I agree with you. Like when we laughed at first, I was just like, "So we getting up?" Like I was in the theater just looking like the lights came on, but I feel a way, and I'm not even sure what way I feel. So I feel like I wanted to cry, but I didn't have no tears for it at the same time. So I was just kind of confused, and I was in my car by myself. So
yeah, I think if I had one part to say that I didn't like, I didn't like the fact that. So is this a spoiler?
Oh yeah, we giving away. Oh, sorry y'all, we giving away this whole movie. We talking about this whole movie.
Exit stage
If
left.
you ain't see it, do not watch this yet
Don't be mad at
because
us.
we talking about this whole thing inside and out. Hopefully, we gonna turn it all the way upside down. So sorry, right now. I really ain't sorry to be honest with you. I'm not sorry. We watched it. We talked about it. Y'all had enough time to go see it by now. And if you didn't, I'm sorry, but like I work a crazy schedule and I still managed to get there, so I don't know. Go ahead, sorry.
So I think the one part that I didn't like was the fact that they had the young boy shoot the cop, the black cop. Like I was just like, I don't feel like that was necessary to the story. I think I kind of get the backdrop of love happening in the midst of all this turmoil, but you have this young, bright young man, now his life is over because he shot this black cop and killed him. You know what I'm saying? And I get the whole misguided passion. You know, you have the love passion in the one scene and this misguided passion in the other scene. But I was just like, I don't like that. And I think maybe it's because I'm a mom. And I was just thinking about like my kids, like what if my daughter or if I had a son.
You gotta be somebody.
If I had a son, like I would just be devastated, and then I would be mad at them. You know what I mean? Because of what they're portraying to the young people at this particular. So that was the one thing I didn't like. If I had to choose something that I just didn't like.
That was literally why I didn't give it like a perfect.
Yeah.
But then I listened to Lena Waithe talk about that part, and what she was saying was that the little boy was supposed to represent those young boys whose lives have been taken, like a Trayvon Martin, like those individuals who they're angry now at the police because the police are mistreating them, And so it didn't matter who the police officer was.
That's what I thought.
You get it. you are getting
Yeah.
it.
So yeah, I didn't see that
I didn't
interview.
see.
or
Okay,
hear
I didn't see that.
I didn't see
Yeah.
that.
But
Had
that
to
was my
figure out
thought.
something. Okay.
That was definitely my thought with it, because I'm like, okay, I'm sure they didn't just throw this in the movie just to say, okay, we just want to put it here. It had to be
Yeah.
strategically placed in it,
Mhm.
and just like with Colin Kaepernick, how do you say his name?
Kaepernick.
I can't pronounce his last name.
That
But
was
just how
movie.
people have misconstrued his
Yeah.
stance.
Yes.
They're like, oh no, you're disrespecting the flag. You're being rude. Well, it has nothing to do with the flag.
Mhm.
Pay attention to the words that are coming out of his mouth, and you'll understand why he did it.
Right.
And it's the same with how the little black boy now is mad at all police officers.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, no, we're just upset with the officers that were taking black lives.
Right.
He was actually trying to tell the black boy, go home.
Mhm.
I don't want to hurt you. I don't want to shoot you. Just go home. But the little black boy was thinking with such anger, he's like, nah, I hate you because you're a cop and you're a killer and you need to die.
But it seemed like he shot the gun and didn't even realize he shot it.
I definitely think
I-
he did
It
that.
was his anger.
That's what I was
Yeah.
gonna
I think it
do,
was just
say.
his anger that pushed when he wasn't prepared to do it.
Yeah.
Which I thought was
And that's what I was gonna say, that when I saw that scene, and I agree with everybody in their interpretation of the scene, which is another good thing about the movie, because you can interpretate every scene totally different. But what I saw was that there was anger in a young black man. It was misguided anger. He didn't really know how to process his emotions. And then when he had the gun, that was the thing that I figured that he got it from his father secretly. And then when he pulled it on the cop, he was angry, did not even know how to articulate himself. It was just anger.
Right.
When the gun went off, he was so shocked that it went off that it wasn't his intention to hurt anyone, but it was his anger and what he knew from society and history with young black men is to pull a gun.
right.
Without, and you look at it even in today's society, a lot of black men pull guns because that's what they see. But then once they pull that trigger, they don't realize what they've actually caused.
Right.
And you can see it in his eyes. When he did it, he was shocked.
Yes.
Like, what happened? Because he didn't even know what he was doing in the first place. It was just misguided anger.
Yeah, because a lot of our black boys, and me and Teron have this conversation all the time about how a lot of our black boys are taught that the only emotion that they're allowed to express is anger.
Right.
Because it was very interesting that his father, people would assume that because his father owns a business and that they seemed to kind of be close enough that he was hanging around, that he would be able to have a conversation with his dad about how he was feeling. And that wasn't the case, because if his dad would have known that, I wouldn't believe that he would have sent him to walk with those two in the first place. You know what I mean? So they did, just because we assume that people have these like close relationships with parents even when they live in the house with them, but it's not really the truth, because anger just gonna be anger, especially if you are told that's the only one you're allowed to express. Especially black boys, they're not allowed to be sad, they're not allowed to be not allowed to be disappointed, they're not allowed to be hurt, they're only allowed to be angry. So I'm going to express that, and then they don't know what that looks like, the aftermath of that. Most of them don't know what it looks like until they've done it. So yeah, and he was like prepared, because walking to that water, he was still telling them like he wanted to have a legacy, and like in his mind, he was so disillusioned about what happens after you perform an act. So I was confused. I was conflicted on whether or not he wanted to shoot him, or whether or not he just didn't understand what it was going to be like once he did shoot somebody.
I think he also wanted to show that he was in a position of power too.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I also, kind of going back to his father, I think that he couldn't even really have the conversation with him. Because if you remember, his father was like, I'd have took my ticket and been on the way. When that wasn't even really, like, if you really would have watched the video, like, he shot this girl. They didn't even try to get on the ticket, you know what I mean? So I don't know if the
The whole
conversation,
stop was just completely
just
unjustified.
completely unjustified.
Wait, what?
Right.
Why are we here?
So let's go to that scene specifically. One of the questions that I have been seeing people say is like, the woman, she caused this police officer to be more agitated because of the things she said in the car, and then her jumping out of the car. And I just want to know what your feelings were watching that scene, because usually what we always see is the right before the shooting, and then a bunch of people on the internet talking about, well, we don't know what happened beforehand, we don't know what happened, but even though it don't matter. But that's usually the case of what we see. And then this time we were able, as the viewer of the movie, of course, able to see what happened beforehand. What was your feelings about that traffic stop?
So
Everybody
feel
take a deep breath, throw
I
back.
don't feel like what agitated him was the cop was him saying it's cold. Could you hurry up?
Yeah.
That was the agitation.
Yeah, that's what
And she said several times, "I'm going to get my phone. I'm going to get my phone." So I don't feel like it was her. He had determined when he stopped them that this is how this was going in.
When he
Here,
said, I
Also,
don't
when he
need
went into that
backup.
car and didn't process
When
it.
he said,
Exactly.
when he said, I don't need backup, because she asked him on the radio, do you need a second car? And he said no.
And we all know in today's world,
Yes.
they ain't pulling you over with just them.
No,
Not
that's
more.
right.
They got another 1, 3, or 4 coming to back them up.
Exactly.
So,
To have
and they've been doing
nobody
that.
with 2 people in the car.
And he had already killed somebody 2
Right.
years
Which
prior.
you find out later on. I just, the fact that so many people were ready to go, man, it's her fault. Like, it irritated me to the fullest, because it was like, she shouldn't have been popping off. And I'm gonna stay calm as much as I can. If you, as a police officer, do not understand that people are going to get smart with you, and you're angry about it, you shouldn't be one. If people's words hurt you that much, if someone said, or just sprouting their rights, if that irritates you that much, you should not be in a position of authority.
Yes.
Because, and I say that because if she was the cause of it, if she was those things, she didn't touch that man. She didn't say
She wasn't
anything.
even
She didn't
close
even talk
to
about
him.
his mama. Like, she didn't do anything. And I was just like, if words are making you this upset, you need to take a break. You need a sabbatical. You need something
You
that
need
is going to
a
help.
job.
You need
Sit on
another
somebody's
job.
couch.
So, because you are getting upset at something that is literally in the amendments, right? A freedom of speech, being able to say what I'm feeling in this moment, and her being privy to law because she was a lawyer. She already knew what was going to be happening in that moment. And I understood the pullover in the beginning was because they swerved.
Right.
So I can get it. Drunk driver, you're a police
Not
officer.
sure.
Dark outside.
But you ran nothing. You came to the window immediately and said, get out of the car. And even if you would have said, get out of the car, the way that you responded, if you would have given him a DUI check, something along those lines saying, I saw you swerve, I just want to make sure that you're okay. It was none of that. Let me trust the trunk. So all this time, I just think that there's this silent thing that's still happening, that we're trying to quiet black people from being angry.
Black women specifically.
Black women
I
specifically.
was about to say, I think a lot of people were feeling some kind of way because it looked like another black woman popping off, showing her attitude, when that really, maybe 5% of it was her having a typical black girl attitude. But at the end of the day, she's a lawyer. She knows the law.
Yeah.
She knew that he wasn't justified in what he was doing, so she's going to speak up, as she should. He was a little more timid, so he's not going to be like, oh no, you need a warrant to check my trunk.
Right.
So he unfortunately didn't say some of the right things, and she's like, oh no, this isn't going down right. But at the moment when he decided to draw the gun on him because he said he's cold, can you hurry this up? It was already,
Yeah.
we already knew what was going on.
He was in there
Right.
drunk,
Ready
ready
to
to
go.
shoot.
He was ready.
They both
was
was
ready
about
to
to
shoot
Yeah.
anyway.
And it's
So they were unfortunately in a no-win situation.
it was no way, and like women have the ability to kind of see what's about to happen.
Yeah.
And I feel like she was seeing like this is about to go all bad.
Yeah.
It's about to be terrible. But even like when if we get pulled over, our first thing is, because you know my mouth. First thing is like, don't say words.
This one get me killed.
Because there are situations where that can be the
that
case,
can happen.
where your mouth will get you in trouble. But in the movie, that wasn't the case. It was an
not
overzealous
good.
cop who was,
A murderer.
I'll just say, eager to
Yeah.
kill another black person.
Yeah.
And that's
And
what
in
I
this
saw.
case, he had 2 he could kill.
And that's what I saw, because you had a cop who already already had hatred in them for black people.
Exactly.
Then you had a young lady that was highly educated and questioned his authority.
Yep.
So when you have authority and hatred mixed in the same person, if anyone questions your authority, whether it be that traffic stop or at home, that you're going to go off. And because it was black people, she questioned his authority. The brother complied with everything that he asked for. All he did was ask him a few questions. Hey, could you hurry up? And then he paused and said, why? He said, because it's cold out here.
That's it.
But he had already made it up in his mind. These Negroes are not going to talk to me like that. Who does she think she is to question my authority? I already hate y'all in the first place.
That's it.
And now I'm about to take one of y'all out. And I'm going to justify it. That's why I did not call for a backup. That's why I did not ask for help, because I'm going to justify my actions because of history. See, my colleagues have shot you guys in the past and have not been convicted of anything. So I already know that I can get away with this. So it's best if you keep your black mouth shut. That's the perspective that I got is that he hated them in the first place. And it happens even on jobs. If you question the authority of someone that feels that they are superior to your intellect, when you question that authority, if they had the ability, they would fire you on the spot.
I get that all the time. Like, you know, in the position that I'm at work, there's not a lot of black women that are program directors or anything like that. And so I'm always saddled with, I have an attitude problem. Well, I really don't, but what you're saying doesn't make any sense, and here's the reasons why. And so I had that same situation. Of course, it wasn't a cop. It was, you know, somebody in a higher position. And this long email, who do you think you are? You don't, you know, all of this type of stuff, because I questioned your authority. And it ended up that I was right, but you were just...
Which is usually what happens.
But it was just so, you were so appalled by the fact that, A, I know what I'm talking about, and B, I questioned your supposed authority.
Right. And I'm always fascinated, like, with the police and their authority and their the lack of accountability held to them. Because, like, if you're a teacher or even in, like, our profession, one hand towards somebody is like a complete issue. But somebody who has a weapon on them at all times, who is supposed to be the most trained at keeping their cool in high stress areas, has no accountability for their actions. Like, they could literally just be like, I was afraid. Where your training is supposed to train you to I don't believe in the training, but your training is supposed to be one that would teach you how to de-stress yourself. And you have outlets, they're supposed to offer outlets for such things where they don't have any accountability. But if there's 30 kids in a room and one of them put their hands on the teacher, it's like she or he should have known better or been able to keep their cool. In the profession in which we work, it's like, if one of them attack you, spit on you, do whatever, it's like, well, you needed to understand that that's who they are. It's like, why is there no accountability for police officers in the same way, who are people who actually have weapons on them at all times? Like, you're not that afraid. You're lying. I do not believe you.
And that's because police were created initially. Their commencement was to police black people.
Absolutely.
Police in this country were created after slavery because it was something that was meant to make sure we stay in line. And that is why there is no accountability. You were never created to have checks and balances. You were created to do what you were doing and what you're still doing, which is be awful.
Especially when they're allowed to be abusive to each other. Like, if you don't do exactly what everybody says inside the system, we are allowed to not come to your defense if you need something, even in that system. So if they're trained to not even defend each other because they don't agree on something, they surely ain't worried about that.
Which brings to the next thing, the scene with the cops when they got busted that first time.
Yes.
And the white cop and the black cop, you know, they were kind of going back and forth. And when he called him a boy, he was like, don't call me a boy one more time. You know what I mean? And so it was like, and then when he opened the garage and they were there, I was like, what's about to happen? What's about to happen?
So good at suspense.
I know.
So good at suspense.
And I felt like...
So one of the things I disliked about the movie it was a bit predictable to me.
I can see that.
I knew the cop was gonna let him go. Cause
I didn't know. Like, I didn't know if he was going to be like trying to prove himself. No, I'm like, yeah, I'm black, but I'm not for all of this. Or was he going to be like, get out of here? It wasn't predictable to me.
I can understand your thought process because you're a filmmaker, and I get that.
Yeah.
But if you look at it, it was predictable because number one, the timing of where that scene was, it would have been over too
Right.
quickly.
Right.
And I didn't think it was the type of movie that would pause for a court scene. It just wasn't that type of
That's
movie. It
what
wasn't
I
going
meant.
to end up as a 30 minutes of court scene and verdicts and all that. I just didn't
Right.
see that as an ending. But it was predictable because of the scene right before that and how he was disrespected by the white cop, and which caused him in his emotions when he walked back there saying, I'm not going to let them do to you what I know that they are going to do to you.
That's
And
what
let
I
him go.
thought. I thought he was just gonna be like, I'm not gonna be a part of the takedown. Like,
Yeah.
I just thought he just was like, I'm just not gonna be part of it. So
Yeah.
it was good that he went back there because he
I
was
love
still
that.
letting them know,
Yeah.
like, this is still a real chase. Like, they're really after y'all. But I thought it was interesting, even going back to the beginning, just the fact that she didn't have anything to lose. Like, she had no family. She didn't even really like her job at that point because she had just lost her her client just got the death penalty. Like, she didn't have anything to lose, and she didn't care that he had anything to
which
lose.
was
Like,
irony because she
not
got her
care.
uncle off for killing her mother.
Right.
Yeah,
She
that
did
was
not
good.
care
Right.
at all if he had anything to lose. She had to decide it for them that they were leaving. Somebody she don't even know that they were going on the run. And I thought it was very interesting that he was just like, it showed to that point where sometimes we don't have real time to think about what really could be the best course of action for him. I mean, every action was going to be a bad one for him at that point when she told him, like, you are a murderer now, like, you're a criminal now, but, like, you don't get a chance to think. There was so much going through his head. Like, he had to process killing somebody. He had to process, I don't even know this woman. She's a lawyer. Maybe she knows what's best for this situation. And, like, where would I go? I don't even know what to do. So I have to trust this stranger with my life right now. And I just thought it was really interesting to talk about, to just think about, like, one, I don't have nowhere to go. Like, if something like this happened to me, I was thinking, like, is there like a secret family member nobody really know about but me that I could go run for days? I don't have that. And then, you know, like, her just telling him, like, on that street corner, like, you can't call anybody. You have to throw it all away, and, like, we got to get rid of these phones right now, and, like, all of those things she knew to do immediately. But none of them said, let me call one of my colleagues to see what we could do next. Because that said that, like, even in her office, she don't trust nobody.
Right.
Like,
It's nothing.
I don't trust nobody, because you would have, for me, I imagine that being a black and a young black lawyer, probably not a lot more of you at your office, so I can't even call one of these people. And where do I go while I'm calling them? Because I don't trust that.
I think
either.
also in that is the less people that know right now, the better.
Right.
Yeah.
There's no sense in me calling anybody to get advice right now because the police are going to trace every phone call, so now they're going to be tied up. Let's just eliminate that and throw these phones away and figure out what we going to do.
So the end of to this uncle's house, who was on board from
I wanted to say that I feel like it's just the strength of black women.
Yeah.
Because now we got to multitask. Like, I really don't know this dude, but I know we got to get out of town, and this is all the things that we have to do. So I've already figured all of this stuff out. Just follow what I'm saying, doing what I need to. And she just figured it out. Like, let's do this, let's do this, let's do that. And that's how, as women, you know, we have kids, we have, you know, things, jobs and all of that type of stuff. We got to figure things out. Like, it almost was like she didn't have time to be like,
But then it got to a point she ain't know nothing else and he had to step in.
But that's because
that's because she had already figured 90% of it
Let me say this.
out.
She was able to take over when it was of a legalistic situation because of her experience. She knew what works and did not work. Because her being a defense lawyer, she knew what to do, how to do it, how to get out of that situation at that particular time. And so she took over. His character, he was like mom, dad.
Right.
Because he was so close to his parents.
Yeah.
But her experience caused her to think like that because
Right.
she knew, number one, you shot a cop, there's no hope for you. Even if I defended you, if I wasn't here and was your lawyer, you're going to get the death penalty.
Yeah,
Period.
we're done.
We just witnessed that here. Where it was questionable, did this man even do it? Really? Because they really didn't have the evidence if you follow the story. And look, he got the death penalty. So she jumped right in on her strength of her experience as a defense lawyer. This is what we need to do. 1, 2, 3, 4. And as you said, as the movie moved on,
Yes.
then his thinking started to kick in because he was more rational.
Right.
He had time.
She was more after, now you remember, after she got done with everything that she did in the beginning, she became playful in a way too. She became just kind of, totally away from what she started off. She wanted to hang out the windows. She wanted to get the air in her face.
Yeah,
She
like
wanted to do little bold things. Like it was things that she never had an opportunity to do before because she's so busy in her job. And his rationality took over.
I felt like she started to feel safe.
Yeah.
I don't think
Yeah.
she's felt safe with anyone in a very long time. And she's in the most vulnerable situation, and his character made her feel free. She could be free in these moments, which I think was a part of my frustration when I heard people speaking so negatively about who she is. I'm like, you all are speaking so negatively about her, even after learning her past.
Right.
Her uncle who has PTSD killed her mom by accident. That was the first case she ever tried. She had no other family. She's alone all of the time. Like, you all don't have any more grace for her, for how her reactions are, what her attitude is, and then how life has helped her to transition. And I haven't heard anyone speak so negatively about Dan Kaluuya's character, how his personality was, how he was a little more timid, a little more in the background. I haven't heard anybody speak so boldly about them being upset. Oh, he was a man. He should. Everyone's just been immediately just on her. But even after learning that, so I think that was it. Like her just feeling safe to be free now. Like,
But isn't it amazing though that it speaks to like society, where society does not give you grace. It really doesn't matter what else is going on in your life. If they perceive that what you're doing is wrong, they will jump onto that thing and decide that you are completely 100% wrong. And not only are you wrong, but you're like a monster all over. Like you don't have any 3 dimensions to yourself, and you're only all of one thing all of the time now, forever. Like there's not a lot of grace. And unfortunately, a lot of the people that I saw talking negatively about her character were a lot of women who just did not, they had a lot of understanding for Daniel Kaluuya's character, but they didn't have none for her. It was like, why did she talk to him like, why did she talk to the cop like that? Why did she get out of the car like that? Why was she looking like that? She went down to her uncle's house, why would she forgive him and he killed her mom? It's like, geez, like
That's why I say people who don't like it, it's
point.
above them. Like it's just like, like this girl just not in the beginning when they were on that date, I was like, this is so awkward. Like I don't think I like her character because she was so rude. You're so rude. Like please don't make us like this. But
But I got her character once she said that she was feeling away because her client got the death penalty. I was like, oh, you just don't want to be alone.
Yeah.
And he seemed easy. And even though that seems like it's rude, at the same time, sometimes that's what you need. Like you need just like somebody in your space when you feel in a kind of way, and when you don't have like somebody in your home or somebody you're dating already, you like anybody. And I don't want the you'll do to be anybody who I think I'm going to have to carry on something with, because I ain't got time for all of that right now. I just don't want to be by myself today. I don't want to get to know you.
Such a real human emotion.
Yeah, it's like I just don't want to get to know you. I just want to like be. I don't even want to call them my friends right now because they're going to require too much, and I ain't got time to give it to them either. Like I just want to sit, not alone. to talk about anything that don't have nothing to do with me.
Mm-hmm.
And even your friends can't give you that sometimes because they want to ask you like, oh, so what happened? I heard you had a big case. I don't want to talk about that right now.
Right.
And now they take offense to it, like, well, why? Why do you want to talk about it with me? I'm your friend. And it's like, where's this stranger at? Let's find this app right fast. Facebook, you got dating people on there real quick. Find some loser real quick. Take me to dinner.
She did say I chose you because your picture looks sad. I was like, that's so messed up.
So if you ever been on them dating apps, if you ever been on them dating apps, it's some sad faces. Some people that you would be like, what's wrong with your day? And why did you pick this picture?
We're not gonna we were been married for 25 years, so dating apps were not out back then. So I had no idea what these dating apps are.
It is sometimes it
So
can be
much
a sea of
access.
sadness and disappointment. But since we're talking about the two of them together, let's talk about that journey of the love story part of this situation. What I liked about the story was that it became a space of freedom that most of us don't find in relationships, where they were able to just express really what their souls were speaking and felt, not even just their heart, but like what was coming from their soul. And you don't get that a lot of times, even in some of the relationships that we have. Like now, I know people who are married who don't have such free spaces to speak and to speak about what they want. And so, like, I just want to hear your perceptions of the love story that was the other story in this movie.
I thought the movie did a beautiful job of showing the progression of their love, if you will. Here, the movie starts out with this extremely awkward date where she seems mad rude, mad stank, and he's like, dang, but I'm feeling you. So they're like, what do we do next? And in the heat of the moment that happens, now they're stuck together, if you will. But she still has these walls up that she really doesn't want to come down because she's spent some time building these walls up. And they can't just come down overnight like that. That's not going to work for her. And he's like, well, we together now, boo. We're not going to get married.
Keep my woman.
But he, even in that, like, he was still patient with her.
Yeah.
Like, you could feel him wanting to be more intimate with her, if you will. But he was still being patient with her.
Yes.
Even when they went on their second date, he's like, well, if we had a second date, this is what I would do.
Yes.
And even in that, you saw her start to open up. And it's like, okay. Oh,
When she said, you would risk everything to take me dancing, I was like, he's sitting there. But she said, I was like, he's sitting there.
When he said, not something I can do to get out the heart. If you take it out the heart. Excuse me. He said that we could die today. I just want to dance with you.
I just want to dance with you.
And I was like, oh, I need to breathe.
Yes.
And all these females will be walking around talking about you gonna dance with me.
I said,
Oh, so you want me to be your legacy? What do you listen?
Oh, no, we didn't even get there yet.
Wait, we did not even get there.
Sorry.
Jesus.
That's some good stuff.
Because this is the one that got me, okay? When she said, because I had to write it down when she said it. She said, I want someone to show me myself. Someone to show me my bruises that I never knew I had.
Come on.
Someone to encourage me to heal them myself. And then cherish the scars that they leave behind. And I was like, I don't even know who I want to marry, if I want to marry her, if I want to marry Dad, if I want to marry whoever has the camera, whoever felt it in their spirit, whoever was sitting down there who felt it with me down the line. Like, somebody needs to marry me right now, because I was like, I don't even know. Like, there have been so many relationships that I've been in, I would have never gotten anywhere close to even being able to say that to somebody. But for somebody to articulate that, like for her to write that,
It's
was
amazing.
just like,
It was poetry.
It was amazing.
It was just
Literally
like-
amazing.
if I didn't respect her as a writer at any other time, even though I do, but if I didn't at any other time, the way that she wrote that was just like amazing, and then the way that the character, the actress, delivered it was just like in the space where it was just free enough to say, and it was just like you would start sitting there like, what are my scars? I don't know what I have. Like,
Listen.
where are the bruises? I don't even know where they at. And somebody out here is about to show them to me in such a loving way. Like, I've never been in that kind of relationship, but it was my favorite part.
Now guys will be examining females like,
It
I'm not talking about male porn.
When I heard that line, I was like, that's amazing, because I feel like I had that in a relationship with my husband, but I've never had the ability to articulate that. Like, there's always a safe place for me to have my anxiety, for me to be like, you know, and I don't have the repercussions of that. So I feel like to have what I've always felt articulated in the movie was just like, this is a real, for real, straight up emotion that women feel. Like, I want to be able to be vulnerable without you using my vulnerability against me. You know what I mean? And if you get that, that's a once in a lifetime type of love, and you have to hold on to that.
I really liked the movie because there was just so many messages within the movie, and the love part, it was a forced love, and the reason why I say that is because here you are using a dating application in a chance to find someone that would be your destiny, in a chance. And when it doesn't work out in those first 30 minutes, you've already made up in your mind, I will not see you again. But then when you drive away and the situation causes your souls to now fuse together, even without your buy-in. Right. It was without their buy-in. Like, their hearts had not bought into each other at that point. But the situation caused their souls and it caused that soul tie. And then it was almost a forced movement of love and a pattern of love where they came together. They had no choice. It was like the universe had all came into alignment because of them two, based on a tough situation. And you can see the elevation of their relationship in an adverse situation. But they had pockets of scenes where they showed that they could be vulnerable, that they could have fun, that they could get to know each other, and this is in the span of only a couple days. They experienced more than what Keisha and I experienced in 25 years in a couple days.
Yeah, that is true.
When they said that at the end, this was a 6-day chase. I said, I was like, wait a minute. In my mind, I'm like, she's pregnant, the baby's due tomorrow. Like, I was like, this was 6 days. What is it? That was intense. It was intense.
Yeah. But it was, I think I think it was because they had, to me, had given into the real possibility that this ain't going to end well. Yes. And so there was no reason to hide who you really were. Like, there was no reason to hide it. You won't like me, you don't like me, we're going to be in this car. Like, so I'm going to say what I really feel instead of holding back on anything, because if you don't like me, it's fine. Like, we didn't like each other for real when we first got in this car. So, like, I can say however I feel, because this may not be good. And we but a lot of us don't get that opportunity to have that close proximity for that long, because we have to, and be able to connect where there's no other people who are trying to force us to not. Because that was the other thing. There wasn't anybody who was being like, you with this dude? You like him? And which is what a lot of women get. Is like, you like him? Like, why? What he work? Where he work at? What he make? What kind of money he got? What kind of job he got? How many girlfriends he got? He got babies? Like, all of that stuff. And the things, they didn't even have any of the people in their ear to make them not believe anything that's being said, to not trust anything that was being said, to then be open enough to say whatever they wanted to say at the same time. And I thought that was really good writing, to be able to come from that space to just be like you said, like, it's forced. They didn't buy into. They weren't like, yeah, let's go on a road trip. Like, it wasn't even a fun situation. It was a really bad situation. And still they were like, we're gonna find freedom in this.
I think to speak to the old schoolness, I guess you could say, of Daniel's character, I thought about it afterwards. I was like, he picked her up for this date. I was like, but people don't do that anymore because we don't trust anybody, right?
Yeah.
I'll meet you there.
I'll meet you there. I'm gonna Uber. I'm gonna do anything, and I'm telling 87 of my friends, I'm be here. And this was, she went with him in his car, and I just thought that was really, like, this is odd. This person that trusts no one is getting picked up from someone that she does not know. She's meeting him on this app, and then because he's old school, he's like, I'm picking her up. I'm showing her a nice time. I'm taking her out to eat at this black-owned diner. Like, you know, I thought that just in the beginning, there was just showing just how different they were. Then to get them to this space of, we're no longer our representatives, right?
Yeah.
I'm no longer scrolling through your profile, looking at the things you're telling me. I'm now seeing who you are.
Right.
There's no facade anymore because we're out of that space. We've moved past that now. We had to. So.
When she got to the uncle's house, and he was like, you don't have to cut your hair. She's like, I'm not cutting my hair. I was thinking to myself, like, girl, if you don't cut them braids out.
That's black lady response though.
Right, it is.
But then
Black
I
lady
thought, even
response
on that,
woman.
I was like, why she didn't think she was going to cut her hair? Like, she's a lawyer. She
Right,
know what
you
this look
understand.
like. You knew you got to get rid of them braids, bro. Don't do that.
When she came, when she
Okay.
got cut her hair, well, took her braids out, and she came down the steps, and he saw her.
He
His
saw her.
expression was like, oh my God, this is the
Yes.
most beautiful woman on
I
earth.
think that's when they got married.
Yeah. Hell yeah, he married her then.
He married her all the way then.
Because that look said, oh, here's my bride.
Right,
Yes.
right.
And even now, when you watched it and saw his face, you were like, now you, because you got a husband. But I was like, I need my husband. Look at me. I need somebody.
So
See,
she was a little caught off guard by the way he looked at her.
She was.
She was like,
Even though, like, you know, I remember coming down the aisle to marry Art, and I remember when I got to the altar and he saw me, I remember how he looked at me, and it also kind of made me uncomfortable, like, like, am I alright? But it was like a look through you look through my soul.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And that's how he looked at her, and I think that's why I caught her off guard.
I was looking. But when I saw Keisha come
Yes,
down
be
the
like,
aisle,
yeah, that's what
it
my
actually
mind.
hit my emotions so hard that I began to want to cry. Because when you find your soulmate, there's a difference between a soulmate and a date. And that's when you look at that
Come on,
movie.
educate us.
It started as a date, but it ended up as soulmates. They ended up as each other's destiny. So that when he saw her without any of the things to enhance her, which I believe that black women don't need anything to enhance them, they're already beautiful without anything. That's just my thoughts. But when he saw her without any enhancements, and when he looked at her that way, it was her that saw that he seen her for who she was and not what she covered herself with. And that's when that connection really, oh my God, the way you're looking at me right now. That's when, but that's when you guys say, but when you guys say that they got married at that moment, but it was the perfect moment that their souls really did.
Yeah.
It really did fuse
Yeah.
together at that moment.
Because when they were laying in bed and she started showing him affection, she reached over and
Yes.
said, I'm rubbing your head
Ooh,
for good luck.
Yeah.
I
hated
felt
that
it.
line.
I did
Yeah.
too. It was
I was
just
like,
like, oh, you couldn't come better
Just,
than
I would
that.
just rub his head. And
I felt it though.
But she had to explain, because she's not, I felt like she did that because she's not used to showing that
Right.
type of emotion.
Yeah.
So she had to
have a
explain to
reason
herself, I'm doing this for,
This movie.
And she was protecting, and again, she was right back at it, protecting her own emotions, her own feelings. She was protecting herself.
Yeah,
But at the same time, she was rubbing his head because they had already got that. Their souls had already tied. So she began to act out as a wife, as someone that is her soulmate. And when you talking about somebody you just met that day or so, and you want to grab him by his head and just rub it, that means you're comforting him. That means you're really speaking into his destiny.
Yeah.
because when you really love somebody and like Keisha, no, I touch her all the time. Sometimes she'll be like, would you just stop touching me? but I'll touch Keisha on her shoulder. She might be in the kitchen doing something, and I'll just come up behind her neck and just touch her. It's because I'm expressing just how much I love you without words. It was unfortunate, and I hated the line because here she is showing that strong affection towards him because she saw that he was her protector. And everything that she did, she had to depend on him, and vice versa, but she had to depend on him for her own life. And she wanted to let him know and confirm in him that, yes, you are my number one boo. This is only you. This is it. It's you. And that was, when you touch somebody on the head and start rubbing their head, that's an affection that goes beyond just some surface affection because you see what they look like. That is way beyond that. She was showing, I am in it till the end.
And he didn't jump when she touched him.
No.
And I was like, he already trusts her because he trusted her with his life from the beginning at the date. That by the time they got to physical touch, he was already like, I've been waiting for this. You know, and it was just like, intimacy, and it's so crazy for me. I was feeling like we spend so much time like getting done up so that we could be seen, but then we are like, I want somebody to love me for me, but we would not dare present that. And thinking like, because I see a lot of people on social media who are just like, every time I look bummy, here comes somebody trying to talk to me. Yeah, like that's the person you want, but at the same time when it happens, you like, if you like me like this, bro, like,
you gotta go somewhere.
I don't know about you. Like, because I look a mess, okay? But it's the truth, like you do want to get so done up and presenting your.
But men are the same way. We ain't going on a first date without a haircut and without, a fresh fit. And
Yeah,
sure
but a
we
lot
smell.
of our best self is artificial self. Like, I ain't going on a date without these lashes. These ain't mine, okay?
I just had a
But
thought.
I'm still taking
I just had a thought about that scene when she was touching his head because remember he was a mama's boy and a daddy's boy. And when it first happened, his first reaction was to call mom and dad.
No, he said I have to call my dad.
Well,
He
dad-
said
His
about his
mom
mom.
wasn't
He never
even in
mentioned
it.
his mom.
You never mentioned his mom?
No, he never mentioned his mom.
Don't do that to
Wait,
Keisha.
you're a mom.
Keisha, don't do that to me.
No, my mom passed away years ago.
Right.
But anyway, well, even if it wasn't a mother, it was just the fact that it was his parent.
Yes.
When his first reaction was, I got to call my dad because that's where I get all my direction. That's where I get my guidance. That's who loves me. That's my dad. And I think that when she touched his head, that was a nurturing feeling. That's why he did not jump. He did not react. And if you remember the movie, when she touched his head, he was like, it was a release to him. Like
almost
ooh,
activated
man,
him because
I
when they
needed that.
turned back around, wasn't that when she said to him, "I'm afraid,"
Yep.
and that's when his response was, "I got us," or what did he say? It was way more pivotal than I
It
got
was.
us.
He said something much more deeper.
He
He
did.
did.
But that was
Like,
the
I
point.
got
That was the general gist of it.
That's the
I got us
feeling,
a lot.
yeah.
So he was that.
But what's interesting was like when I was listening to one of the podcasts, shout out to the Read, where Lena Waithe was.
Love the read.
The guest, she was saying that the initial point of this was for her to be Malcolm X and him to be Martin, and then for there to be a point in the movie where they switched, and she became more Martin, he became more Malcolm, meaning that, and so that for me was the switch when they were in that bed because the dominance changed at that point. She was more dominant until they got to a place where she was with family and more familiar with her space, and then she kind of like cooled herself down, and her uncle jump-started him being like, well, she speak for you? Like, what are you doing? And then he was starting to realize, like, I really ain't making no choices. And starts doing and saying something like, this is still my life. Like, I have to have a say. And then he started to, like, become a more dominant force for just even himself. Even if it wasn't for her, he was still more dominant for his own self at that point. And I thought, listening to her speak about the movie, I thought that was pretty cool.
I was happy that when they were laying in the bed, they didn't make that a sex scene.
Yes.
Yes.
It needed to be a much more deeper connection.
Yes.
a deeper show of intimacy, and I was happy that wasn't, because I thought this is where we're going. I was like, this is where it happens, you know, wow, chicken, wow, wow, and I was thinking like, please don't cheapen this movie by doing it right
It
there.
definitely
I
was
love
not.
that they left it at her touching his head versus her choosing to like cuddle with him.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Or him coming
That's
at
what I thought
her.
was about to
Yeah.
go too.
Yeah.
Or even him coming at her,
Yes,
which would have been
yeah.
so wrong at that
Yeah,
point. It would have
yeah.
been so wrong of a place for him to come sexually at her.
Right.
Anyway, I thought it was really, really good. And you know, they just with the costuming, because they both had on white clothes, and it was kind of like this purity situation that was going on, where the scene was safe and it was pure at the same time, and nobody disturbed them in that room. Like, nobody came into the room to disturb them. When they didn't really know each other, I was like, it's interesting because this house is big, and they're still in the same bed, which was also very interesting to me, because those are those old houses down south.
Right.
There was another room. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
there was, and they were comfortable
Well, Uncle had a lot
enough
of
to.
hoes in that house.
Yeah, we only had 4. 2 of them was sleeping in the bed with
Four
him,
that
I'm
we saw.
sure.
That we saw.
For the
He
people.
clearly had a business at that big
That's
firm he
true.
had
It
on that
was running
thing.
off. And shout out to Bo King, because anytime I see
Yo.
Bo King, I always feel
Yo, I
like
was just about to
he
say
is
that.
not a
So
great
good.
actor. In a lot of movies that I see, I feel like I don't like his acting style. But I really thought he did a great
He did a
job.
great
in
job.
this movie. I really
love
like.
his
I
character.
believed his character 100%. I believe that he wanted to help her, but he didn't want to help her, and like he had his own stuff going on. And you know, I think he played that character very well, and I think that he acknowledged their connection that was happening,
Bless you.
and I love that. Even one of the girls there was speaking about how, you know, like outside he ain't nothing, but
Right.
inside here
Yeah.
he's a
Yes,
king.
yes,
And,
yes.
and them getting that, because sometimes we miss that, like even in relationships, it's like we want to fight too, and it's just like I'm not a man. I do have boys at the house, and well, they men now, and I kind of want to, you know, I see them and want them to be honored by someone when they leave my house.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I just feel like that particular person saying that was important, because I think that with this whole feminist movement, it gets lost in translation, because like, so for instance, my husband opens the door for me and all of that type of stuff, and my daughter's like, why you always got daddy opening the door for you? You can open the door for yourself. And I was like, that's not even really the point. Or why do you always fix daddy's plate? It's because when he's out there, who knows what's happening.
right.
But when he's in here, this is the sanctuary that I'm creating. And I think that's where some women miss that, is that you have to create a place where he can feel like a king, and then when you make him feel like a king, he makes you feel like his queen.
Yeah.
And I think that we kind of miss that in this love and hip hop generation, and we can all have 2 and 3 women to get, you know, all of that type of foolishness that they have. But the one thing that I thought was interesting, and I seen when the cops came and they was like, we got to get out of here, and she went to go pick something to wear, she was like,
Yeah,
and she was like,
she's
let me put this together, let me put that together. I was like, I know that's right, we on the run, but I ain't gonna be looking crazy.
She
literally
did.
found the thing that had the most fabric. She was like,
Right.
I don't know what else to do.
And I was like, okay, look. You still needed a whole look on this run.
Right.
Them boots did not say I'm on the run. Those
No.
boots said I'm still trying to be cute.
I'm trying to keep for my man.
For my boo. She
For
was like,
that.
when I come outside, he's gonna be like, yes. But I see
There's so
even
many
more.
messages out there.
It was crazy. And even like him in the uncle's clothes, I was like, boy, you know that is not your look.
Right, but he looks so cute in it though.
I said, but it does work. It does work. It
While
was,
they
it
were
was
having
cool.
that moment in the room, the uncle and one of the hoes.
Right, with the ring.
Yes.
I was dying.
He slapped her. She was like, I said, this is such a difference between what's happening right now.
Like they had to make the whole hoe pimp scene legitimate.
Like you either had
Like
to
they
be on-
they had to have that happen
Yeah.
in order to legitimize the fact that they was in a hoe house.
But him jumping up and down with 2 feet. It was so funny. I
Even
was
just the way it started when he just looked at her and was like, I know you took my picture. places.
I have a confession though. When I saw the uncle in that Adidas sweatshirt, I was like, oh yeah, that's my boy.
Uh-oh.
Which is why he didn't say it. He's like, no.
I actually did. I looked at the screen and
Somebody
said,
did it.
I know you did.
yeah,
I know you did.
that's
You
what-
text Keisha right now. For Christmas.
He was up in there like, I know we ain't supposed to have cameras at the movies.
I did. I looked at it and was like, oh man, that took me back. I was like,
You do kind of get a feel though, because he wasn't a time zone that didn't belong to anybody but him.
Right.
In that space, but I thought I just loved that, and then again, it was still me thinking about like this traveling thing, and I was like, not only do I not have like a secret family member that I could go to, but I don't even know nobody who had like secret people that they could call on to like help me on the next part of this journey. Like, cause she was just like, in her mind, she knew if I get to him, he gonna get me somewhere.
Yeah.
And I don't know many people that I feel like I could say as family, like if I get to them, they could get me somewhere. Which is very interesting. Not that I think that we need to have like these secret people, but like just the fact that they hadn't spoken so long and she still trusted him with her life. Like her whole entire life spoke to family in ways, because sometimes we just decide like, I'm done with them, I'm never going to deal with them again, I don't need them, I don't need their mess, I don't need the stress, whatever. But she showed up and he was just like, initially was just like, y'all can't stay here and I ain't giving you no money and I don't know the people. And it just took one girl to be like, come on now.
Yeah.
Because he really wanted to help her, but he didn't know how she really felt about him.
Yeah.
And I thought that was cool, because they didn't have to have like a touching heart to heart.
Right.
It was just like, come on, you owe me.
Yeah.
Man,
And he was
that's
just
all
like,
And he just was
Man,
like,
you right.
you right.
right.
Even showing the transition
Changes the
in
whole time.
her relationship with him, versus the beginning, she wouldn't move her arms when he hugged her, to right before they were about to drive away, she gave him a full blown hug.
Right.
Like,
Yep.
this is the last time I'm gonna see you. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm about to hopefully get to where I'm going, but
Yeah. That's family. You know what I mean? Like, good, bad, or indifferent, I'm gonna have your back. And I was thinking, like, if we went on a run, like, we'd have to have a prayer meeting first. We'd probably get caught. They'd probably be like, the blood of Jesus right now, God. Coming right down. And we'd be like, listen, the police is outside. We gotta go.
Meanwhile, if it was me, they're going
Nah,
to would
man.
drag me by my hair. We're getting in this car now. Let's go driving. And I'd be like, I just wanted to make sure I had my phone, because sometimes he'd be like, no, nothing. You get nothing. I would be crying in the car.
We ain't stopping to dance.
I would be in the car like, no more dance now, let's have or something. No,
We
we're
got
not
time for all that.
dancing. I would be like, I'm sorry, I just
we
wanted
can
to
see dance.
ride on the horse right fast. I never rode on a horse before. Have you rode a horse? We can stop for a minute.
So many people are having issues with their journey. And I think that's one thing, after watching so many movies, I myself dispense myself from reality. I know that movies are about to take me to a place that's,
Right.
no, this is not realistic at all. You're not going to stop and do this on the real, I'm on
Right.
the run. But because it's a movie, it's poetry, it's setting a scene, it's giving you emotions, it's giving you thoughts, these things are going to happen. And so I appreciated them stopping to smell the roses in a sense, because it was like, we may never have this opportunity.
Yeah.
So I
And I
really
think that's what's
appreciated
beginning to
that.
resonate with them. Like, we don't know how this is going to end. So
That's enjoyable.
I've always wanted to ride a
This
horse.
moment.
So gosh darn it, I'm gonna get out and I'm gonna go get on this
And
horse.
even more, he wasn't saying he always wanted to ride one. She had ridden one, and then when she learned that he didn't, she was like, in her head, like, we might not get this opportunity to do this again. You got to do this now, today. And then him realizing, like, oh dang, like I might never ride a horse again. Probably up until then, he thought it was more of a possibility that they gonna make it to where they trying to go, and it hit him then like, this might not end that well.
I was still holding that they was working on that plane.
And I thought, and I think when you were saying like this is over people's heads, like they didn't get it, I think because people lost some of them never had the capacity to ride two stories at the same time, because there was that story of a getaway, but there also was that love story.
Yeah.
And because a lot of people don't even know how to identify with that deep of a love connection, they were lost and they missed it because they were like, it was just too long and I don't understand. Yeah, because that was the love story. All of the long parts were the love story, and people who missed the love story, I feel like didn't have the capacity to even imagine in such a space that love could look and be and manifest itself in such a way for them that they couldn't even see it for these people. And I'm like, man, like if your loves are so surface, like if you can't get deeper underneath there, like that's why you don't have the connections and the arguments come the way that they do, and they're not settled in the ways that they could be settled, because you can't imagine yourself in spaces of being loved in such a way, or even loving in such a way where these things could be done.
And that's that reality show stuff.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer that reality shows, it makes money for those particular actors or non-actors that are on those shows, but I think it's a setup. I think it's a setup because it does not show enough of black folks being able to have those emotions and be able to love each other, even on an unconditional level. And it seems like, as I watch them with Keisha sometimes, and I always tell Keisha, I say, why is it that they always got to portray us as argumentative, can't get our thoughts and minds together to accomplish something positive? It's always this bickering, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And it's like, it desensitizes our young people when they watch that consistently, because they don't believe, and that's probably why a lot of people didn't like the movie, because they don't believe that it could go in that direction. Because all they see is the negative aspect of black people. We don't act like that every day. We don't just get around and sip on wine and then talk about other people and then start arguing, ready to fight. That's not our reality. It really isn't. But those wannabe reality shows, that's what they portray about us. And I think it's really disturbing the natural progression of our young people's their emotional maturity. It's stifling, because the image, what they see, is something totally different.
It's no longer art imitating reality. It's reality imitating art.
Yes, there it
And
is.
it's sad. It's really sad.
Yeah, that concerns me. I tell Keisha the whole time.
Yeah, but you definitely don't.
I don't like them.
And they don't show enough. Like, that's why I like shows like This Is Us, when they show Randall and what's her name? Beth. Because she's unapologetically black with her scarf and her cocoa butter at night. But also it shows the fact that this is a loving relationship, and these children have a mom and a dad. You know what I mean? And they love each other, and they have arguments, and they get mad at each other, and they're not speaking for a moment. But at the end of the day, I love him, and we're creating this family. And I think that we just don't see that as much as like anymore. And I get the whole single mom thing, because my mom was single. She was raised me, and she got married. I was 18 when she finally got married. And I get that, but there's also another side to that. There is a husband and wife, you know, that love each other. I remember going to school, going to Dominique and Kirsten, their school and stuff, and sometimes Art was working at night, so I would go to parent-teacher things by myself. And our automatic assumption was I was single, and so, you know, when he would come with me, it would be like, you know, it would be like we're a black unicorn just walked in the, in the room, because we don't have that. Like, it's the Fresh Prince, you know, with Aunt Viv and Uncle Phil. You know, those shows are not around anymore. You know what I mean? And the Huxtables, you know. Sorry, Bill.
Cliff is another person. Cliff is another person.
You know,
and Cliff and Claire, Cliff and Claire definitely did give us examples, and I definitely said, I spoke to you before saying that, like, you know, I wanted to have these conversations with people who could give examples and conversations about like marriage and relationship and those type of things, because I've been a single mother my whole entire life. I have 5 children. I have recently had conversations with my children who are young adults now, saying like, do you feel like you have had good modeling of of what relationships look like.
Mhm.
And my boys both were like, no. And so they both are at this point like, I don't want to jump into no relationship right now. People will say like, well, you got a girlfriend right now? Because my son's 21 and he's like, nah, I'm really just trying to learn like what relationships look like right now. And like that's weird of a 21-year-old black male to say, like urban black male to say, is like, I'm just trying to figure out what relationships are supposed to look like right now. And we have a lot of male and females who don't know what relationships look like. We have been given the very unhealthy models of what relationships look like based off of what our parents have been through, based off of what we've seen our friends do and what we ourselves have put ourselves through. And then we had to model that for our children, and they don't have good examples of that. So like the TV and the reality shows definitely speak to the extreme of what a lot of us have seen anyway.
Right.
But we don't see a lot of black love. Like we don't see a lot of positive black love and what that looks like. And what like, unfortunately, even like if we're friends and I see you two, I only would see you guys out. So I don't even know what this argument look like and the makeup look like. You know what I mean? Like we don't get to see that. I could see you being like, yeah, I ain't feeling art today. But I don't get our side of it. I don't get art feel like he ain't feeling Keisha someday. I don't get which one of y'all decided I'm just gonna make up even if I'm wrong. I want to be connected to you still, and I want you to at least know, even though I don't agree with what you say, I still want to be connected with you. And this is not the end of us because we don't agree with everything. And like again, even speaking to that, allowing me that space to heal myself is like we don't get to see couples needing to grow and not growing at the same time, but allowing one to grow and being there for them while they do that. Like you don't get those examples a lot of times. And I thought even in this movie we were able to see her come from that closed place, and she was growing to open herself out, to like bloom herself, and him learning to be like, I'm going to bloom, but I'm also still going to be able to be a dominant force for myself. And we were able to see that with just things that people just don't believe. Unfortunately, I've come across working with a lot of teens, and I've come across a lot of them not realizing that that's a thing. Like, no, you like, I am always right. You gotta respect me. You gotta what I say. Do what I want. And it's just like, you're not safe with you right now. You don't need. You do not need a partner of any kind because you are not even safe with you right now. Your words say you don't love you. I need you to not have a boo thing, whatever you want to call them right now, because I need you to find the love for you. And we don't even know that that's a thing. Like we're not taught that. And I think she did not know how to do that. And I think he created that space for her to open up her own love, because you hear it in your head. And we all hear those things we want in our head. And he created that space for her to say them out loud. And that we don't get a chance.
I think Instagram is another thing right now that is robbing people of what Queen and Slim had. Everybody is wanting this engagement. Everybody wants this wedding. Everybody wants these things, but very rarely are you seeing things about marriage. And it's like, or what that really looks like in terms of going through. You think people get to 50 years with just,
Happiness
happiness and cheer. Exactly. Oh my God, just love you so much, babe, because you're my babe. Like,
because we match clothes all the time.
Right. I tell everybody, it's a very thin line between love and hate. And sometimes we can have an argument, and we just had an argument yesterday. Okay? And I felt like I can't stand it. But I also know that I wouldn't want life without him. And that's the thing that people don't really understand. And so, I think that we had been talking about doing some Facebook posts just on our journey to 25, just things that we've been through in our life. Because everything about us says we shouldn't be together. he's 9 years older than me. You know, my grandfather was the bishop. You know, I was like carrying on, and he had a prior marriage. I didn't. He had kids prior. You know what I mean? So everything, and I think that's why I like Queen and Slim so much, because everything about them said that they shouldn't even be together. But when you are destined for a person, and I hate to say the universe, but I guess I'll say the universe or God or however you want to say it brings it together. You know what I'm saying? There's no reason why we should still be together. We're going through the things that we have gone through in our lives, traumatic things, and there's no reason why Queen and Slim, they could have been like, I'm going my way, you go your way, but it was the soul mate, the connection of their souls that kept them together, all the way till she said, "Can I be your legacy?"
Listen.
Okay.
Okay, because we was in the car scene. We was in the car scene when she said that whole part about her scars.
Yes.
And that was his saying to her, like, I want a legacy. I want my woman to be my legacy.
Right.
Whoa.
And he started off with something real cliche. I want to ride or die.
Yes.
And I immediately said, "Why we gotta die?" You know.
Yeah.
And then he
Right.
explained it.
Well, that was kind of her reaction. Like,
Yeah.
what does that mean?
Yeah.
Like, shut up.
Yeah. Right. But then when he went into it, I was like, "Oh."
So many
Yeah.
times you hear the children being the legacy, but
Yeah.
when you have the person that is supposed to know you, you know, throughout all of it, to know you more intimately than anyone, to be able to have them to say like, no, I want you to be my legacy. It made me think of that India Ari song, where it was like, I tell your dad that I know your dad was a good man.
Yeah.
Like that's what it made me think of, that part when he said that. So.
And there it goes back to that forced destiny.
Yeah.
It's like you had to really think about how this was going to end, but what leads up to that final moment, and all the things that you long for, all the things that you want to happen, because really, you know, you're supposed to live a long life. You're supposed to have children, and supposed to create wealth for your offspring, and supposed to leave an inheritance for your children. You're supposed to do this and supposed to do that. And they knew that there was no way that was going to happen. And so those words were very, very instrumental, because they had no other choice. It was so forced. It was like, we gotta love each other. We gotta do this. But can I switch it up a little bit? Because I just want to ask a question. I know everybody got some feedback on this one. So what did you think about the white couple, the friend of the uncle and the wife?
John.
I felt like they were real.
Yeah. Like I wanted to smack her.
Right. But she was
But he
walking
warned
in her
them
truth.
of
Yeah,
that
he did.
before he got there. He said, you know, he's cool. His wife is a pain, but he's cool. And so I think they just expected it anyway.
Yeah.
I thought it was cool that their house was set up for
Slavery.
God.
Well, because
It was set up for the Underground
It was an
Railroad.
Underground Railroad house. You know what I'm saying? It was in
I thought
Georgia.
it was cool, yeah.
You know what I mean? That was the only way. But at the end of the day, even though she spoke her truth, she still held it down.
She
Yeah.
Because
did.
when they knocked on that door, she grabbed their plate, set it quick, and was like, "Let me put it in my secret drawer." And I was like, "Yes, but be part of the revolution."
What is all this for? We're just sitting here.
I mean, they changed so quick because they were
So
sitting
quick.
together. She turned and sat against him, and it was like there was never any other dishes on that table.
Right.
It was just like,
That was a code switch if I ain't never
when
seen.
I tell you.
Listen. Ooh.
They
When
do
I
that
tell
often.
you, and yeah, you could tell they do that often because they weren't even in a panic when there was a knock on the door. One, they didn't even go with them when they told them where to go to hide. They were just like, we ain't even gonna be like scurrying around here, so that when they come in, we're not gonna look like we were panicked. We just gonna be sitting here like, I don't know what happened. Like, we're gonna trust that we can give you clear description of what you need to look for when you get upstairs. And literally, all they said was go into our bed.
Right.
Go
My
under
dumb
our
behind
bed.
would have been under the bed, like.
Yeah.
That is true. I was like, I know Negroes did not go get up on the
They had no bed
But
skirt
the
or
guy
nothing.
said there's many hiding spots.
Yes.
He sure
He
did.
did. He
Yeah.
did.
So I figured he said go
They
under
must
my
have
bed
went
for a
in.
reason. He didn't say
Yeah.
go get in the closet, go in the
Yeah,
spare
but
bedroom,
the fact
go up
that
to the
they
attic.
knew,
He said go under
like,
my
the fact
bed.
that they were able to get in there figure out which boards to get
No, that's
into,
where- that's
get
where my issue
under
lies.
the
Yeah.
bed, and
That's
close
where
it
my
back
issue
up.
lies.
Because I was like, how they know which ones to get in back in order?
But did they really have that much time to remove 4 panels underneath that bed to get up under there?
It was several panels.
There were several. And then who
It
put
was
the bed
several.
back? 'Cause-
Yeah, because somebody had to put the bed back.
Right.
That's what I said.
But see, that's where my mind, when you were like, I don't know nobody to do these things on a run, my mind went, oh, Brittany, you have to go to the gym. Because I'm telling you.
That's not the same thing.
I
I
was
was
not
like,
okay.
I would have been holding up the thing. Like,
That would have been like this weak floorboard that's sticking up right now.
First of all, I was like, my knees hurt too bad to be running up these steps.
All the camera
I
would have saw was a shoulder.
wouldn't even be hitting like this.
I would just been in there, listen, I'm too fat. I can't run up this stuff.
I'm hot today. We would have got to that thing, I would be like, oh, hell no. Like, I can't do it.
I never went in any of y'all's direction.
Can't go
Who's the
fast on the
first?
run.
You can't.
You cannot do both.
She don't have you stuck. Call me.
I would have been like, or you got to come on the other side. There's only room for one of us. God, another one. Somewhere. Got to be something somewhere. I love you. Oh, my God. I don't know what to
We both not gonna be.
We can't be in here together.
Oh, my
Good.
God.
Oh, so
That's too funny.
That's exactly where my mind went. I was like, my fat behind would be calm.
We're supposed to go like that around roller, but I'm really like, oh my God, I would be dead right now.
Because I would be like, get on
Going
my
to jail.
arm. Get on. Oh,
Trying to hold it in for 8 hours. That's not
Oh, and
gonna
the
work.
plus that you would have heard me breathing hard.
yes. From the grind up the steps, I got to keep this bed up. We got to get up. We got to get the thing up. Then I would have just looked down. I'm like, we did.
Downstairs in the room.
Trying to take me to trim my area.
And then when they all started walking in, I would have been like, hold my breath.
They moved that bed. I was like,
The first thing, you needed to put that first one. I'm like, oh Lord, oh Jesus. I would have just, if I didn't know God before that scene, I would have been right up in there like, oh God is so real, because I don't know how we made it. Oh.
I can't believe where y'all are. It's in a totally different place. I
It
was thinking.
affects all my days from this point on.
I was thinking the
Can't be
dramatic
over it.
aspect of it, that the cops come in and then they had to hide, but me too.
even when she
I was
was
thinking
picking
on
up
that
the outfit,
technical
I was
stuff.
like, I wouldn't have nothing to
I
wear.
but nothing in here.
Thank you. Because I had to put the same dirty
I had
clothes on.
to inside out myself, hoping that looked
Right.
different. It's like I just turned this.
I would have been
inside
screaming
out.
through the house. I ain't got no plus size hoes in there. It's ridiculous.
Some of we don't have no fat girls next door. No fat girls next door. We don't all make to figure it out. Somebody need to go find a fat girl. 'Cause I need to do
Y'all
that.
better find a lame brand somewhere.
Like someone would have had to get because I was just like, she got all these clothes to pick from. I couldn't pick.
What was your next topic?
So let's get to we already got to the first house, and then the next direction, he said, take these directions, it's going to get you to the next place, to my friend whoever. But when they got there, there was no house. It was just space. And they still trusted to stay in that space. And she still trusted that he was going to keep her safe in that open space. They didn't know who they was looking for. They didn't know nothing. And I was like, I'd have been like, you better keep driving till you find a house.
Yeah.
I'm not sitting by no swamp land. And he fell asleep. And so, like, to wake up and somebody got a gun, this is the second time this has happened where there's a gun now to me. And he still was calm. And they still trusted this guy to go with him. Now we walking. I don't
She
know
didn't
that I
trust the
would-
guy at first though.
No, she didn't.
She did, and she was like, "How do you know we can trust him?" You know what I mean? Like, he was, well, what other choice do we have? You know?
And so that scene for me set up the ending.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it set it up. I was just kind of like,
Yeah.
they ain't gonna
So
make it.
unfortunately for me, somebody on Facebook,
Yes.
Oh no.
No.
they didn't give details.
Oh.
But what they said was, I just seen Queen and Slim, and all I'm gonna say is it's always our own kind that's after us. So I already knew
When you got there.
Something.
kind of how it would end. So once it got to that point, and I looked at my watch, and I was like, "Oh, okay, he's the one that's about to turn away."
Yeah. The gold teeth gave it away for me.
That's what I said.
Well, when they asked him if he knew whoever the people was that they were down there, he was like, "Oh yeah, I know so and so." I was like, "No, you don't.
Yeah.
Y'all need to
But
leave
he
him right now."
did know them. That was the thing. He did know them because he was able to still call the guy with the thing. But he also
How
called
we
the
know?
police.
How we know who he called? He didn't know
That's
people.
That's true.
He didn't know people.
I,
He just rode past and see
It
them.
seemed like his conversation.
that's
And
what I felt
He
like.
knew he
I
was
felt
getting
like that whole
250,000
conversation-
apiece.
I said once he said I don't got no phone, I would have been like, I ain't going. I ain't going.
And then he
Don't
left
got
that
no
trailer
phone.
without a shotgun.
He left the trailer
Yeah.
without the shotgun. I just felt like nothing about him said he needed to be living in that trailer park. So there had to be another reason why he was there. It wasn't because there ain't no money. You don't got all those gold you riding around like you riding, and you don't have no money. So I feel like he was already in it because he's dirty in some way. And so once they got to the tarmac, I was just like, he just rolled away. He ain't say
Right,
Man,
right. He was out of there so
Nobody
He
fast.
ain't say good luck. He ain't say safe travels. He ain't
And he
say
left
nothing.
them out too far from that plane.
Yes.
It was
yes.
so far.
So far.
It's just like,
And
why
just
are we
rolled
talking
away.
about
When he
that?
I was watching like, where are you going?
I feel like they knew at that point too.
But I think they knew. I think they knew when they pulled in front of the water.
I think they did.
I do. I think that my whole thing is I think that they gave into the fact that it was more likely that they weren't going to make it than it was that they would. Thinking that they would was their fantasy, but I don't even think that that was a reality for them. It was just like I think that's why they were so easily okay with doing all of these lasts, because you could dance again in Cuba. You might go ride a horse in Cuba. You probably could feel the breeze in Cuba if you really thought you were going to get
Yeah.
there.
Because they both,
You know what
at
I'm
different
saying?
times, said, I don't know if we're going to make it, or something to that extent. But what if we don't make it?
And so
And the
I
other one had to say,
think-
no, we're going to make it.
Right.
I think they kept giving into the fact that this ain't going. This won't end well for us.
I think even though they had that in the back of their mind the whole time, I think at that moment with that plane right there,
Oh, yeah.
they thought they was
They
getting on
thought.
that plane.
Yeah.
They thought when they saw the plane, I know that they did think, but even
Like this
when
might work.
But even when the police cars were coming, you didn't even see them like, dang, we almost made it. They were just kind of like, yeah,
We already
makes
knew.
sense.
And it was just when I was so mad, like when that white woman shot her, because
I was more mad at her than the white cop in the beginning.
I was more mad. I was like, she's not doing anything.
Nothing.
Why are you
Literally
shooting
did
her?
She didn't shoot her in the arms, the
Nothing.
legs. She shot her in the heart.
Straight in the heart.
And I
She
feel like
was ready to kill her.
I wanted to know if I could ever talk to Lena, I would say, did you make this white woman kill this black woman purposefully?
She did. She
Yeah.
did. She said that. And
She
she said that.
And
She
in
was
the
speaking
heart,
about
What did she say?
That's significant.
she was speaking about Sandra Bland and how we only know Sandra Bland not because of any of the good things that she ever did in her life, but because of the horrible way that somebody murdered her. And so that was to pay homage to how unnecessary Sandra Bland's death was. This girl's death was unnecessary. They did not have to do it. It was not needed. And so it was to speak to that. She was saying, even for both of them, when they were saying, why did they have to die? She was saying, well, as Trayvon Martin's mom, why? As Sandra Bland's mom, why? As Tamir Rice's mom, why they had to die? These were unnecessary deaths that did not have to happen. As they encountered police, and you may even say that they were, once they could have been encountered to where they were, that they were doing something that could have been questioned, like what they were doing. She was pulled over. The pullover could have been questioned, but there was no need for a death to come with that. And she was paying homage to these women who have to now carry on like the movement because unnecessary deaths at the hands of police. And so, yes, the question is, was it too graphic? The ending scene, was the ending scene too graphic, or is Lena and justified in saying that when she was taught about writing, she was taught about writing about what is relevant to the times, and is this relevant to the times, and is it okay to write such a thing even though it's so graphic for us?
I think that's the only way it could have ended. And like, if they would have did anything fluffy, it would have cheapened the movie. I feel like, you know what I mean. Even though, you know, it was like I was getting shot as he was like, you know, getting shot all the time. I was just like in the scene like, you know.
Yeah,
But
you did feel
I
it.
was, and it reminded me of also, which is a movie I don't like, Set It Off. When Queen Latifah
Yeah,
got
that's what it
killed
made
in
me
the end.
think
I
of.
do
Yeah.
not like that movie. I will not. That's my husband's favorite movie.
I love that
I do
movie.
not like it because it's just so
Wow.
darn sad. You know.
It is the same movie.
But
And
you're
I just feel
right.
like it couldn't have ended. It had to end.
Because we
It
would not
started violently.
we would not have been okay watching them get arrested. There was no way that they were going to unviolently arrest them.
No
There
way.
just was no way. Because at the end of the day, right or wrong, justified or not, they were cop kill. He at least was a cop killer. There was no way police officers were going to take them down easily.
No.
And they were also on the run and had people looking for them for days. They stole a policeman's car. Like, you're still a criminal.
Left
for
them
the
in the
things
trunk.
that you did, and left them in the trunk, which is
That
kidnapping.
Yeah.
And so, like, there's a lot of charges on them. There was no way that they were going to. We felt the love story. We saw the connection, but the police don't know anything but criminals. And so there was no way that we would have accepted them just getting in the back of a cop car and credits roll. Like, there was no
No.
way of that. So the only other thing would have had to have been them getting in that plane and flying away. And then everybody would be like, then what? Now what? Like, you know, and so even though it was uncomfortable, it made me need to breathe a lot. I'm a crybaby, so it made me like I felt like I wanted to cry, but I also felt like I already felt sad for that death earlier in the movie. So I wasn't sure if I should cry, but I think still I was okay with it. And I thought it very interesting that everybody was upset that they died at the end and didn't like that that happened, but they wanted some like great getaway or whatever from them, but they also weren't okay with this boy shooting a cop. Even though, like, that would have been the opposite. It's like somebody getting at these cops for what they do, and they weren't okay with that either. So I don't think anybody really would have been pleased. There's no way you could please everybody
Right.
anyway.
No.
I do agree
And
with
this
that.
is the most realistic
Yeah.
ending to the story.
Life doesn't end in a pretty happy bow.
It doesn't.
It just really doesn't. It's messy. You know what I mean? And I cried. I cried and cried and cried and cried and cried when it came to the funeral scene. I cried
Oh,
even
the
more.
funeral scene was hard.
Oh, it was so hard.
Yes.
It was so hard. And just looking at everybody, seeing the news of how they were killed, and then in the background you hear them saying, "We really wanted them to have their day in court." No, you didn't.
No, you did, and they never would have.
And never would have. Never would have.
I've never seen the day in court. And here's something that was interesting that I did not even notice until she said it, was like, we never learned their names in that movie.
That's so.
We never learned their names. The only time that they mentioned their names was at the funeral. And the news story said it first, and then their names were on the church at the funeral. It was the only time you knew their names, because their names are not Queen and Slim.
It goes back to that little boy when he was talking to them. He was like, "You're immortal."
Yeah.
And so at the time, nobody knows, right, who we are now. But let something like that happen. I never knew Trayvon Martin. No one
Yes.
knew that he was down in Florida. Nobody knew him.
Mm-hmm.
That situation that happens, now we all know them.
Yes.
I think that whole part right there was just huge, just how now this makes them somebody.
Yeah.
That's scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is so scary.
Is that what she was saying? Was like, we would, why would we know Sandra Bland, even though she, was a professional woman and she did her job and she was, on her way to an interview. Well, nobody would have. We as a nation would not have known her. She would have been nobody
Right.
to us. And even any of the young males who died, we only know them because of death. And it also, for me, spoke to the fact that, like, we know people, or we see people now that we will say we know, and we don't even really know them. And we have the opportunity to get to know these people and decide that it's really not that important to still get to know them in ways. And like when we talk a lot, and when we talk, there's always like something that comes up that we'll be like, I didn't know that about you, and I know you for like how many years? And it's like, even like with your like people, you know, it's hard to, and it's not even really hard. We just don't give room for it because we want to watch the reality TV show. We want to like, you know, just sit and read a book, and that we don't want to share with anybody else to get their feelings on it. And you know, it's we kind of anonymously make people anonymous in our day-to-day. That it's very easy for anybody's to be anonymous, and then when they become known, we know them and still do nothing with it because we know all these stories, but it ain't nothing really but ways to trigger us for the next one,
Right.
which is not even a really good legacy.
Right.
I think so many people, it was so funny to me watching different reviews and seeing different reactions. People upset, oh, they didn't have to die, oh, that was gruesome, all these different things. And I was like, but y'all didn't even like Black Panther. And everybody was smart. Everybody was smart. And y'all was still mad at that. And to that point, when I was watching people's stuff, I said, that's sentiment. You cannot please everybody. So if you didn't like it, I get it, whatever. But it's like, you guys, our lives, even as Black people in this country, have not been flowery.
No.
We're not always getting away. Like, it's just not, it's just not
Most
happening.
of the time, not getting
Most of the time.
with anything.
Anything.
Even
Anything.
as small as trying to talk to somebody who is over you and being right. Like
Right.
even in that you're wrong, which is like, how? I'm right though. Like
Correct.
you know, like
Like, that is.
And for the people that say that it was gruesome, y'all went to see Terminator was more gruesome than that.
I was gonna say,
Or,
I didn't think it was that much blood.
I didn't think it was. Or
The Purge.
Or,
The Purge.
Okay.
or
Every
any
any
Tarantino's movies.
What, or
Yeah.
what was
That all
the
he
what was
does
the
is
Quentin
blood
Tarantino movie
everywhere.
with Jamie Foxx?
absurd.
Django.
The Django. That was just
Just bloody.
bloody and gruesome.
It was bloody.
That was okay though.
Yeah.
Now, we'll make a confession. I'm ashamed to do it. I'm going to say it out loud. I did not realize that man had down him out. I was like, oh, he's a drug dealer. Where did he get all that money?
That's because you're innocent.
I was like,
you were
I still trusted that little sugar.
I was like, he almost got him there, but then I did not stop to think, why did he get in trouble too? I didn't think that.
So you're not going to find your son.
You're not ready.
Not ready.
You're not ready.
It wasn't until I got in the car with my mom and sister, and they were like, he down. I was like, I was reliving that part all over. I was like, how could
As soon as I saw him call the money, I was like,
But when I saw him counting, when they the scene shot to everybody was crying and he just counting that money, I was like, we're so desensitized to us being killed.
yes.
Like it just don't even matter.
doesn't even
It's like the
matter.
next one. Antoine Rose
But I
happened.
paid now. I got
Trayvon
my
Martin
5
happened.
Gs.
You know what I mean? It's just like I'm worried about my house and that's it.
And even in Lena speaking about it again in that same one interview, she was saying that when she wrote it, she was like, yeah, I could have made the white couple betray them. I could have even let them get in the plane and that plane not take them to where they were going. They don't know how to get to Costa Rica in the plane. Like, they don't know what the directions are to that, so they don't know if they're making wrong turns or not. But her thing was, when I think back to the people who have betrayed me the most, it's usually people closer to me. It's usually my people. Like, and that, she was like, and for me, it was hard. She said it was hard for her to write, but she said it was still like the reality. It's like, you know, she was like, it just was the reality that most of the time it is somebody close to you who downs you out, especially when you are doing criminal activity. It's usually somebody close to you who's going to tell people where to find you, how to get to you. And I was like, dang.
And we do that same thing with that whole no snitching. We won't say who killed Pookie last night, even though we saw it,
Yeah.
but we ain't gonna snitch.
Except somebody telling. Even though we all said no snitching, even when I'm the one saying no snitching, I'm like, no snitching, go to the like, I'm telling you, don't you tell. And I'll call him like, I'm snitching. Like, it's a dry snitch, because I don't know the art ain't going to tell. You know what I mean? And so that's where he's supposed to be somebody who's supposed to be helping. And like you said, and I didn't even think about it, like, he may not have even been part of the team, but because he made that call.
I
so
thought that he
easily.
that I read something that wasn't who they were supposed to meet. Like, he just saw them, and then
That's what I get. That's what I get.
I would believe it.
yeah, and he was like, well, let me cash in on this.
Because the whole phone call seemed real shady.
So shady.
I feel like that second call really was shady. When he just said they want to go right now, and he was like, it's in an hour, and it's going to take an hour. I was just like, so all of a sudden, my man was
We went
like,
from tomorrow
I can't
to
do it till
an
tomorrow.
hour.
I knew the urgency
To now.
anyway to automatic. As soon as you get here, I'll be ready. Like, I was just like, I don't.
Driving, giving them the,
I
I was like, you just,
carrying on.
oh, come
It fooled me because normally, it's sometimes when you are preparing an aircraft, it may take that for the fueling. It could be anything, because sometimes it's not instantaneous, like if you go to an airport. So if you have an airstrip, it might have taken them that long to get the plane ready and all that. So he says first thing in the morning, but it didn't dawn on me but they said in an hour and you were still ready.
He was ready.
Because my first thought was, oh, they got to get the aircraft ready. I get it.
Yeah, that's
And then
what
there
I
was
thought
going to be
the call
something
was.
going to happen in that trailer. There's going to be this shooting or whatever. But then you switched over into an hour, so there's no way it could have been, because of it was an aircraft.
Right.
And they switched, and they were able to adjust too fast.
Yeah,
Too fast.
the second call for me was the shifty call. I was like, how do you get that plane ready so fast?
so fast on that little go phone.
Right. Right.
That's why when they pulled up, I was like,
He drove off so fast though.
Listen, he
Up
swerved.
he didn't say nothing. He just gave him a look like, I'm about to die. Like, it was like he didn't even care.
Let them hit the weed and everything.
And even just talking to them, talking about, you gave us hope, and it's like, no, they gave you a hope for a better life, because you're taking them down, and it's just like, dang.
That's straight.
Then my thought was
That's blood money.
$250,000, and my thought was, I hope his life is miserable. That's a movie,
Right.
And, he's definitely going back to his trailer. Like, I'm cool,
He
but
about to spend all that money on weed.
right.
You know what you said, fast? That's
See, but if they
fast
do a
spend
Queen
money.
and Slim too, his life he's now owned by them. We gave you $500,000, but we as the government, we own you. So you're not even free with your $500,000. Your life is now there.
I just want to thank y'all so much for coming. This is a great conversation. I almost want to hold y'all for a whole nother one. But thank you so much. But you want to give y'all social medias. You give yours a lot, but go ahead and do it anyway.
Social media, Facebook, Teron Thompson. On Instagram, Teron LeVar.
For me, I am on Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, Facebook, all the same. But all of them are B Right Breeze, BWRIGHT Breeze.
So I don't remember all my social media things, but I know
It's okay,
that I'm
don't
on
be there,
Facebook
don't be
as
there.
Keisha Sheffy. Also, I'm on Facebook as Fat Girl Chronicles on my continuing journey to try to lose weight. And then you can also see AK Catering as well. And I think I'm on Instagram as Mrs._Sheffy.
Yeah.
And I am on Snapchat. Don't ask me what that is because I don't remember.
And it's on Instagram too, your Fat Girl Chronicles.
Fat Girl Chronicles is on Instagram too. Thanks, Brent.
I got your back.
Thank you, girl. Thank you, girl. It's my cousin.
I only have two. I only use one. I'm on Facebook as Art Sheffy, just straight up Art Sheffy, and I'm on Instagram as Pastor_Chef, SHEF. That's it.
And y'all know mine. They're gonna. I'm very thankful for this. I've been trying to do a group for a long time. Toronto, I've been trying to do this. I've been talking to him a lot, so I'm trying not to be emotional right now. But thank you for Teron letting us use this space, and thank you for the family for coming through with their thoughts. This was super exciting, and I'm looking forward to meeting you guys here next week for the next episode of the Just Saying podcast. Also, don't forget, you don't have to take anything I say as fact. After all, I'm just saying.